Hi, Sally here from Bridalicious. In this video I'm going to provide you with 10 questions you must ask your fiance before you marry him. You're preparing for one of the biggest days of your life, and when it comes to a happy marriage, you want all the details on your fiance beforehand. So take note of these 10 questions which uncover what's really going on in his head, what expectations does he have about your marriage, and don't be afraid to ask your fiance these questions. I'm not into being a home wrecker, so should your husband-to-be be stuck for an answer, or heaven forbid, provide the wrong answer, this is simply an opportunity for you both to set aside time and discuss a difference or unsure opinion of these fundamentals of marriage. So, first up, question number 1, who's responsible for keeping the house cared for and organised? Are we different in our need for cleanliness and organisation? This one is bigger than you may think. If living separate from your fiance, and even more so if he lives at home with a doting mother, it can be easy to overlook a messy room or an unspoken expectation that you will become his new doting mother. Have this conversation up front and don't be afraid to discuss how your own family did household chores when you were growing up, as this can often be our default. Question 2. How much money do we earn together? Now, in 1 year, in 5 years' time? Arguments about money are the most common reason for marriage breakdown. You may have had to discuss that financial expectation whilst dating or when planning for your wedding. But concerns like who's going to pay for dinner on a date or how will we afford to feed 100 people at a reception are a lot different from the questions asked day to day, month to month, and year to year in marriage. Have as many conversations as you need around money before getting married so that there are fewer surprises and conflicts during your marriage. Question number 3. What is our ultimate financial goal regarding annual income, and when do we anticipate achieving it? By what means and through what efforts? This can be a confronting question, especially if getting married at a younger age, in your early 20s. Of course, there's some grey in this question, and if only you could have a crystal ball that you could look through about your career and your income path. But failing that, set your course together and decide how you'll collectively achieve it. Saving for a house deposit, for example, can make forfeiting that new pair of shoes or a new surfboard a little bit easy when both parties are united in their financial vision. Question number 4. How much will each of us spend at work, and during what hours? Do we begin work early, or will we prefer to work into the evening? And do we want to work at home? This is largely a question to fire at the male species, as they're typically more hardwired to work hard and provide. It's kind of in their DNA. If you're someone who loves quality time and have an absent husband who's actually loving you through financially providing for his family, you could encounter a few conflicts there. Don't be afraid to reflect on the patterns of your own families and on whether their attitude to work seemed to work for them or work against them. It's a good thing to reflect upon. Question 5. Do we eat meals together? Which ones, and who's responsible for food shopping? Who prepares the meals, and who cleans up afterwards? My poor husband Paul was roped into the optimal diet 3 days home from our honeymoon. So honey, how would you like to go on a vegan diet for 30 days? Thankfully he said yes, as this program was what was a catalyst to my 10 kilos of successful weight loss. Question 6. Is each of us happy with the other's approach to health? Does one have habits or tendencies that concern the other? For example, smoking or excessive dieting, poor diet? Your partner has about 40% of bearing on your waistline, so make sure you're on board with a similar attitude to healthy living. Otherwise, you could find yourself pushing a wheelbarrow with a square wheel uphill, which can be pretty tough going. Question 7. What place does the other's family play in our family life? How often we visit or socialise together? This can be a big one, especially if you have families living locally that both wish to spend regular time with the newlyweds. Or worse still, if one family requests a lot of time and the other's a bit less demanding or a bit more relaxed. Will you have a weekly family dinner? Will you travel monthly to see your partner's family who live out of town? Decide what will work best for you as a couple, and then don't be shy in actually respectfully asserting these desires to both families now that you're a family yourself. Teaching people how to treat you early on in your marriage might be hard, but it will protect and enrich your marriage and these relationships into the future. Essentially, it's a short-term pain for a long-term gain, so don't shy away from it. Question 8, will we have children? If so, when? How many? How important is having children to each of us? And how will having children actually change the way we live now? Will we want to take time off from work or work a reduced schedule? For how long? Will we need to rethink who's responsible for housekeeping? This is a tricky one. From my personal experience, I didn't actually know the answer to this question when going through our pre-marriage counselling. Thankfully for me, neither did Paul. We had some people actually advise that we should definitely know if we want children before getting married, as it can be a deal breaker for some couples if one party actually desperately wants a child and the other doesn't or is indifferent to the idea. I think this is a really personal question, and as long as it's discussed and both parties agree with where the other person's at, it's kind of a process, this decision. If unsure, maybe set aside a date that you'll readdress the question or the topic. So maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever works for you. Question 9, what are my partner's needs for cultivating or maintaining friendships outside of our relationship? Is it easy for me to support those needs, or do they bother me in some way? A funny thing happens to many women when they get married. They become a little territorial with their man, as though his rightful place is alongside of her at all times. Placing limitations on his social activities and time out of the house can actually breed distrust and resentment. If there's a history that warrants concern, like maybe he's frequenting the pub all the time or gambling, which has him washing up helpless for the entire day of your precious weekend together, then address the concern rather than grounding the guy or condemning him anytime he desires some boys' time. I have a deep trust and respect for Paul, my husband, and find that whenever he does spend quality time with his mates or goes out adventuring, kiteboarding or surfing, or even just shares his gift with the world outside of our relationship, then he returns even more with more energy and enthusiasm, if that's possible, in which he directs into our marriage. Seriously, if Paul goes kiteboarding, I can tell without him even opening his mouth, his eyes go wide and he really becomes alive. And then the wave by wave, trick by trick account begins.
Darling, guess what? I just came back from the sickest kiteboarding trip.
Did you, darling?
Yeah, it was so good. I was out there and... Hey?
I'm just kind of in the middle of something. But I'll give you your 5 minutes in about 10 if that's alright.
Alright, I'll go have a shower and then I'll tell you. It was so good. It was so good. Alright, see ya.
But I'm gracious and I love when he's high on life like that, so I kind of just let it all go. Question 10. Do we share a religion or faith? Do we belong to a church, a synagogue, a mosque or a temple? More than one maybe? If not, would our relationship actually benefit from such an affiliation? Reflecting back on a previous video that discussed the 4 C's, it was called The Science of Love. Number 1 was conviction, number 2 was character, compatibility, and then chemistry. Conviction is the most important. No matter how good looking he is, how aligned your hobbies are, or even how nice he is, if your core values and your beliefs are different, this can be a tough road. Many women go into a relationship and many marriages believing they can get him to change. Some do, but I believe the majority don't, and instead live in an unfulfilled place of unmet expectations. If your faith is at the core of who you are, share that with your partner and ask him how he feels about your faith, as well as his own beliefs or convictions. Everyone is on their own journey when it comes to faith and belief, so be respectful of where both of you are at and how your convictions can play a part in your adventurous road ahead in your life and your marriage. Your love transformation task is to book in to your calendar a 1 to 2 hour block to sit down and ask your fiance these vital questions to ensure you're both on the same page before getting hitched. One fantastic program that helped my husband and I get fully ready for marriage was Prepare. During Prepare, you complete an online survey, then you get to meet with a facilitator to actually discuss your positioning on certain topics and values that affect your marriage, like culture and ethnic issues, religion, parenting issues, cohabitation issues, forgiveness issues, commitment issues, and issues arising from a previous marriage. So check out Prepare to locate your closest facilitator. I'll actually put the link below. So have fun, ask the questions, be comfortable with what comes up and where you need to challenge, because it really will prepare you for marriage and really enrich your marriage.